Islam.
Islam.
Get it going. Just, we have all the ancestors are here.
No, I'm
today.
actually
That's
woke.
5 on the left, 2 on the right.
Mm-hmm.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is our protector,
Allah is our protector,
our guide,
our guide,
and our salvation.
and our salvation.
By night
By night
and by day,
and by day,
through her holy prophet,
through her holy prophet,
Noble Drew Ali.
Noble Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Islam.
Islam.
Once again. How you doing, Brother Don Pedro?
I'm good.
So we're starting off today again with the Psych War. If you didn't get it yesterday, the Psych War. And this is by LaRue Ned. LaRuenedd. Reverse psychology. Reverse psychology. The definition of a slave is a person who has lost all freedom and personal rights, who has lost the power of resistance. But when you read about the history of black people in America, you will find that none of these definitions really apply. We have always exercised our personal and individual rights, and we have always resisted white people's attempt to enslave us. The reason why our ancestors were called slaves in the first place is because it was the white people's intention to make them slaves, not that they were slaves. In getting us to believe that our foreparents were slaves, we now see ourselves as being free when it is actually the reverse. We believe that our foreparents were freed by the Emancipation Proclamation and that freedom was passed on to us. Yet all religious and cultural changes that were forced on us during the so-called slave days, we struggle to cling today. What was the process that made us Christians? How did English become the only language we know? If slavery meant taking out the African mind and putting in the European mind, then the reverse slavery would have to mean taking out the European and putting in the African. If we understood that our ancestors were not slaves in the beginning, we would see ourselves differently today. Believing that we were slaves, we acted upon that belief. In the beginning, we risked our lives to get away from white people. In the end, we risked our lives to be included in their institutions. Even though we were not allowed into their churches, we modeled our churches after their churches. We modeled our schools after their schools. At one point in time, we stopped referring to ourselves as Africans. We had been manipulated into denying our relationship with our own heritage. The fact is that the dictionary definition of the word slave does not match the actions of our ancestors before the Emancipation Proclamation. Defending against psychological attack. The first step in defending oneself is in realizing that one is under attack. The facts that the words slave and slavery are attached to our history and that we are still looking for freedom and civil rights are clear evidence that black people in America are and have been under psychological attack. Slavery is about mind control. As Woodson points out, when you control the mind, you control the body. Slavery is about mind control. As Woodson points out, when you control the mind, you control the body. Right? So we're going to go to King Alfred plan again.
Grand Chief, did we read out the warnings too? Did I miss the warning?
Oh no, we didn't do the warning.
Woohoo!
All right.
See?
That's what we're talking about
That's what
right
I'm talking
there.
about right
That's what we're
there.
talking about right there. You can't be diverted off the path.
That's right.
You know, you can't be
And it's
diverted
the
off the
new
path.
Moors who are ready to
Yeah.
not forget.
Right? So January 15th, 1929, a warning from the prophet to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speeches while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure to obey my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet, and if they lose confidence in their prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by Prophet Noble Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Ali. That was the first one. And the second letter was March 18th, 1929. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement by now, by the same people of our side of the nation that claim it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they themselves may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. And it has been proven by my works in which I have performed in the last few days. Islam.
Okay.
So give thanks for bringing that one back to the forefront.
So now we're at the King Alfred plan, right?
Right, so we're at King Alfred plan, and we just read the Black Book.
And what's that? Sorry.
Black guy.
I'm sorry I was late too.
Oh, psych ward.
Psych ward?
Yeah. Not ward, but ward.
Psych ward, psychological ward.
Exactly.
Yeah, psych ward, the psych ward. The interracial battle for mind control.
Okay.
And where we finished reading was, as Woodson points out, when you control the mind, you control the body.
Okay.
So this is still King Alfred plan. Right? Mind control in America. If a group of men gain control of the major news media, the educational systems, the educational systems, they would have great control of words we use, would they not? When you control people's words, you control their thoughts. When you control their thoughts, you control their minds. When you control their minds, you control their bodies. is such a group gain control of our minds, would we expect them to take full-page ads across the country and inform 200 million heavily armed citizens of their accomplishment? Would they more likely keep us singing "Land of the Free and Home of the Brave" while they simply purchase the legislation they need to gain absolute total control over us? Whoever controls the volume of money in any country is absolute master of all commerce and industry. President Garfield. The only way productive people can control the volume of money and be self-governing is when something workers produce is used as a medium of exchange. So the only way productive people can control the volume of money and be self-governing is when something workers produce is used as a medium of exchange.
So, in essence, what they're saying is that if we agree to the fact that we're going to use this fiat
Right.
as our barter system,
Yeah.
then once we agree to that, that becomes the power.
That becomes the power. So whatever it is that you agree on.
So it could be rocks, could be anything.
Once you believe it has value, then it
takes
has
on
value.
Right.
But that's only to you. Because if you go to Rocks to Costco, they're like,
Okay, yeah. But I mean, in essence, it's the same thing with the money, the fiat that we have in our pocket, right? We go to the people who are producing it, it means
Yeah.
absolutely nothing.
But it has longevity. It has a history though. Why people put so much behind it? Like why do they put so much trust in Jesus Christ? Because it's 2,000 years old. You know, he has a track record. Whereas you don't have a track record. You're saying rocks today. And they're like, whatever, buddy. Why are we gonna go with rocks when we got paper right here?
But what you're saying in essence is it's because the paper is backed by the government.
The government what?
Well, I agree.
It's not
So how
right.
does the paper have any real heritage either, or any, what were you saying, any longevity?
Yeah, no, because they've been doing that for a long time.
Oh, I see.
Right? They've had paper
Yeah. You're
floating
saying
around
bank
for a long
notes,
time.
so,
Yeah. Right? Paper's been floating around.
All right.
The actual process of money creation takes place in commercial bank. Page 3, modern money mechanics. So I think that's online still, right? Like it's still accessible, PDF format. Modern money mechanics. Download that.
Okay. But in summary, what
You
is it?
use like download it to like a jump drive or something. Don't download it to your computer
Okay, why?
in case it's a virus.
I see.
Because they'll just put it as a virus and put it out there,
Yeah.
right?
No, I know.
So modern money mechanics, published by the Federal Reserve Bank, and that's basically talking about the mechanics of modern money, just fiat, and how they created it, and the whole story.
But wait, you're saying that's been created by the Federal Reserve?
Reserve.
So that could be a lie too, though? Or not could be a lie, but it's their spin on it.
Well, they created the reserve.
Right. No, but I'm saying the story they're gonna give us is the story they want us to hear.
No, this is like the actual, just like King Alfred plan.
Right, oh, I
but
see.
The money.
The money plan.
Money plan,
Right, okay.
right?
So you're gonna
How
get,
they-
you're gonna
how
get,
they-
you're gonna get the
yeah,
real
they're
deal
telling
from
you
them.
everything,
Yeah.
right? Because they have to, even if they, it's like when you go to school, you have to do your paper,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then your paper could have some power behind it,
Right,
right?
right.
Like I think it was one of those wars with George Bush that
Oh, you're talking about the one where with Colin Powell, where the guy wrote that
when the
book
guy,
report?
yeah, they went to war because of the book report.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, that's why they went to war, because of a guy's book report.
Right.
So the paper, when they make these manuals,
Right.
you know, executive orders and all this type
Yeah,
of stuff,
yeah.
right? It's a paper that
Yeah.
somebody's doing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
Islam,
mean?
Islam.
Islam, right? It's a paper that somebody's doing,
Right.
or a think tank is doing,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Think tank comes together, bam, they put it in a little booklet form, and then
Yeah.
this is what it is.
Yeah.
And then they go over it and they say, okay, yeah, okay, everything gets check marks, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Go with this, right? So that's what the modern money mechanics book is.
Okay.
Right? So that's a Federal Reserve book, like that's their book that
Yeah,
they
yeah.
put out, right?
Which technically they probably wouldn't have wanted us having access to, maybe.
Right, exactly.
Like this
just,
thing that-
just like this, right? But now that we have access to it,
They can't
you
really
know,
do much about it.
what are they really gonna do, right? Try to get this going at a more rapid speed.
Or make some alterations to
Right,
it wherever
or
they can.
alterations to it, you know, call it Homeland Security,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and say that it's related to the border and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
when
yeah, yeah.
everything goes back to
same
Treaty of
thing.
Verona
Yeah, yeah.
and then coming up.
Yeah,
No, it's almost as though when they write these things, especially, you know, reading the King Alfred plan, the way they describe us, you know,
Yeah.
it's almost as though they're doing it with this arrogance that we're so stupid. That
Yeah.
even if they put it out there, we don't know how to read it, and we won't understand it anyway, so, you know,
Right.
joke on us type of thing.
Yeah.
But what they've done is they've taken reading away from us. Well, I think one of those videos said the best way to hide one of these things is to put it in a book.
There
Right,
you go.
right, put it in a book and, right, it's lost forever. Because the person who's supposed to read it won't be reading
The reality behind it is most of the books that we had written well back, they took those books and burnt them
it. Yeah.
to make sure that we couldn't get that.
No, we couldn't get it. But this is where you say divine intervention,
Of course.
right? Because we still got the information even though they burnt everything.
To me, the information is ethereal. It's out there.
Right, exactly.
You can't.
Because
you can't.
just like you can't go to King Tut's tomb and steal stuff.
Right.
That's just gold and trinkets.
That's right.
Right? That's not, you know,
That's
that's
not who
just
he
a shell,
That's right.
right?
His essence.
So why is it? Yeah. So why is it that the pharaohs used to say, oh, well, we're gonna bury them with everything that they own, right? So that they can take it with them. If those things didn't have an essence too. That when that person died, things that were attached to him or her
Mhm.
died with him.
Wow. Wow. His energy was in those things.
His energy was in the stuff because he's using it regularly.
Right.
If I'm gonna say, you know,
It's like this
this water is so beautiful, I love you, water, and you have superpowers after I drink it. You know, because I put my energy in the water,
That's right.
so it's only conducive to me.
That's right.
But if I say yeah, it's superpower water and then you drink it, that you might have a stroke or something.
That's right.
Because it's not your ritual. It was my witchcraft.
Yeah.
You can't use my witchcraft. And then that's our problem.
Yeah.
We're trying to counteract their sorcery on us with their sorcery,
That's right.
not our own sorcery.
That's right. We're trying to use their stuff, which
Right.
isn't gonna work.
Which is not gonna work.
Use background.
We should have learned that from Christianity.
Yeah.
And that's why Drew Ali Kamen said, you know, we're taking that away.
Yeah.
You don't need that. That's not for you. He didn't say anything's wrong with it.
Yeah.
He didn't curse it. You know what I mean? He didn't spit on the Bible or nothing like that.
Just said.
He just said, yo, that's not for you.
Yeah.
That's somebody else's stuff. So let them hold their
Yeah.
stuff. Right? Comes back to why even having to do class on King Alfred plan.
Yeah.
Right? People can see you're claiming something that is not yours. You're stealing. You're stealing somebody's name.
Are you saying the King Alfred plan? Or
No, like the people that King Alfred plan is about.
Oh, yeah. You're saying
They're stealing somebody else's name
Right.
and want to be recognized in that person's name. as them. That's stealing.
Yeah. You're talking about the controlling entities that are running these.
Right, which are most of the time European,
Yeah.
right?
But that's what you're talking about. You're
Right,
talking about them
because
stealing that. Our natural.
No,
inherent-
like I'm talking about our people
Their names.
stealing the Europeans' names,
Their names, yeah.
Okay.
stealing it,
That's
and want to get recognized by that name. Scott and Martin and
But are we stealing it, or is that not put on us?
but we're stealing it because we know that that's not us.
Okay.
We say we ourselves.
We ourselves know that
We
these are-
ourselves say that the name that I have
Is not
came
my
from the
name.
slave master.
Right. And then we're still
But I'm
carrying
gonna
on
go buy a house in that
the
name.
name. Yeah,
That's stealing.
That,
Because that's
Well-
not yours. You know that it's not yours. Because we know that the names that we have belong to slave master. We know that. You could ask a little child, like, how do you get that name? Johnson. Oh yeah, we got it when we were a slave master in
Yeah. Because,
St. Vincent or whatever.
yeah, because even with a lot of our people, most of our people, I should say, are basically not aware of what we're talking about, but they're aware if they really take check of themselves and say, okay, we're Africans, right?
Right.
And so they're gonna know, obviously, that the names are different,
Right.
that, you know what I mean? The names belonging
Right.
to us ain't no European name.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Even if you go to that level.
Right. So it's not like we don't know. We know. We choose not to do anything about it. And then why is it that we don't do anything about it? Because of mind control.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, that I wonder
Right.
whether it's really, it's an active choice that we're really making, right?
Right. And if we're making an active choice to do something contrary to what should be done, that's mind control.
Yeah.
Right? Today, over 100 million Americans believe that there is a law requiring them to waive their rights and file a 1040 confession, and that they will surely go to jail if they do not comply. Perhaps twice that number believe that government spends money, but none of them can describe it. There are less than 500 citizens per year jailed as a result of income tax disputes, and 55,000 people killed on highways, yet the people fear the former far more than the latter. Strange priorities. People believe that water is fluoridated to prevent cavities. By the same government that provides free abortions, free sterilizations, subsidized tobacco, subsidized sugar, lethal flu shots, Agent Orange, syphilis experiments, radiation experiments, and no-win wars, while they restrict our use of cancer-controlling latril. Would these people buy the Brooklyn Bridge for $500?
Yeah.
They have. These are the people that most people are voting
For
in.
the secret owners of the Federal Reserve to control the volume of money and become our absolute masters, and we their absolute slaves, they had to first get the gold away from our parents and grandparents in 1933, which was accomplished with threats of fines and imprisonment from the man who said, "The thing we have to fear most is fear itself," Franklin D. Roosevelt. Next, they had to get our silver away from us, which was accomplished under a great smokescreen called Vietnam.
say that one more time, that last bit?
Next, they had to get our silver away from us, which was accomplished under a great smokescreen called Vietnam. It is just coincidental as to how the chronology of Vietnam War seems to dovetail with the chronology of our silver being confiscated. There is no way that they could control the volume of money if the money was silver coins in the hands of 200 million Americans. They had to get us dependent on a medium of exchange that they would create as infinite volume with infinitesimal effort, credit. The newspapers tell us that Russia borrows from Western banks, and the Bible says the borrower is servant to he lender. The public thinks that taxes are used to provide a defense against Russia, and it's the other way around. Our masters dangle the Russian boogeyman in front of us to justify the tax illusion.
Exactly.
Truth is always stranger than fiction. The Russian people are taught to fear us. History shows that the money changers have used every form of abuse, intrigue, deceit, and violence, and violent means possible to maintain control over governments by controlling the money and its issuance. President James Madison. The high office of president has been used to foment a plot against the American people. Before I leave office, I must inform the citizen of his plight. President John F. Kennedy, in a speech at Columbia University 10 days before his death. The world is governed by far different personages than what is imagined by those not behind the scenes. So what are you going to do about it?
I don't know much about the Bible, but didn't Jesus get mad at the people doing the money lending and money in the temple or something like that?
Most definitely.
So this thing has been going on for a mighty long time.
Right. Exactly. Very long time.
Yeah.
So we'll go back to the psych ward.
Can I ask you something quick before you go there?
Sure.
When you were reading from, like, I don't know if it was the King Alfred Klein you were reading from just now,
Yeah.
where they were talking about they had to get the gold and silver from our grandparents, but it was someone talking in the first person. Who was saying that?
Who knows?
Okay,
I don't know.
yeah, it's interesting.
But yeah, it is. It is. Like, I don't know if this is something that was put in there, because like how it breaks down, like there's military type looking things, and then there's just writings in here. We'll make some copies of this so everybody can get it.
Cool.
But it's like it even has like mathematical equations for how the tendency of a docile subnation. And they have a mathematical equation for that, how they're going to create that scenario. It's interesting. It's an interesting read.
Seems like they already created that.
Yeah, but imagine spending so much energy on destruction. You know what I mean? It's that's how these people have been for the last 2,000 years.
Yeah.
If you had put all of that energy towards something constructive,
Imagine.
this would be a utopia.
Can you imagine?
You know what I mean? But everything, every single thing that they put their hand on has been to destroy.
Yeah.
Everything.
Right?
It's sad.
But at the same time, they're only doing that because they're bored. If you just leave the child in the room with the china, see what happens.
With the who?
With the china,
Oh.
with the glassware.
Yeah.
Just put everything in reaching distance
Yeah.
and see what happens. If you leave a child in the room
You're
by
talking
yourself.
about mentality.
Yeah. What's the child gonna do? Be careful and not break anything,
Yeah, that's probably a good time.
right?
Okay, we'll see.
So it's not that they're being destructive. They're just, that's their nature, because
They were
they're children.
there. Yeah.
They're the youngest race of the human family with the most talk. Like they have the biggest chest than everybody else's chest. They conquered nations and they did all this type of stuff. And they didn't do nothing. You talking about? You have 6,000 years on the planet, 10,000 tops that you were actually on the planet.
Basically, you just messed your drawers.
Like, yeah, that's all. That's all. You're not even walking yet.
Basically, I guess I sense that there's also some, I guess the word would be animus, but anger or something, or resentment
Well,
maybe
it was, yeah.
underlying it, right?
Well,
maybe?
yeah, and that comes
Because of the others.
because of what we did,
Yeah,
and what we did to them,
yeah,
That's true.
right?
yeah.
What we did to them is why they have that resentment.
And they're basically just trying to emulate the fall of us.
Right, exactly,
In that.
right.
And that's why
And what
it's
is it that they look back to all the time? All of our fallen nations,
Yeah.
right? They don't ever.
They're not trying to emulate the positiveness.
Right, exactly, right?
Oh, yeah, they do, but they try to take credit for all the positive stuff.
Well, but there's not
Yeah.
really much positive stuff that I'm seeing from it, except for them trying to control our energy flow. Right? They're not trying to give us, they're not trying to make for a better society, which is what you were saying, right? They're trying to sort of have this hierarchy
That's
with
true.
them at the top
Yeah.
and us running around at the bottom trading nothing.
Speaking about energy flow, we'll go to energy, right? Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on Earth. Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy, and social science, theoretically expressed as economics, is the study of the sources and control of social energy. Both are bookkeeping systems, mathematics. Therefore, mathematics is the primary energy science, and the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping. All science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge, the end is control. Beyond this realm, only one issue: who will be the beneficiary? In 1954, this was the issues of primary concern. Although the so-called moral issues were raised in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such a people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. Consequently, in the interest of future world order, peace, and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American public with an ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy wealth of the undisciplined and irresponsible many into the hands of the self-disciplined, responsible, and worthy few. In order to implement this objective, it was necessary to create, secure, and supply new weapons, which, as it turned out, were a class of weapons so subtle and sophisticated in their principles of operation and public appearance as to earn for themselves the name silent weapons. In conclusion, the objective of the economic research as conducted by the magnates of capital banking and the industries of commodities, goods, land services is the establishment of an economy which is totally predictable and manipulatable. In order to achieve a totally predictable economy, the low-class elements of the society must be brought under total control, i.e., must be housebroken, trained, and assigned a yoke and long-term social duties from a very early age before they have an opportunity to question the propriety of the matter. In order to achieve such conformity, the lower class family unit must be disintegrated by a process of increasing preoccupation of the parents and the establishment of government-operated daycare centers for the occupationally orphaned children. The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the meat of ignorance, isolated an inferior class from superior class, is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. Which, with such an initial handicap, even bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. This form of slavery is essential to maintaining some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. Right? silent weapon. Mom, somebody comes to the door, knock on the door. Yeah, you know, we heard that there's crying in here. So we have to check and see what's going on. Yeah. Well, I see that you have sticks in here. Your children play, you let your children play with those sticks? Oh, I see there's a mark here on your child. You're really gonna need to take your child because you're not looking after your child properly. And we have a witness, the neighbor, said that she heard crying over here. And before the parent could go to the court to make a claim for the child, the police and the court conspire with companies like CAS, right? So now, because now the child now becomes a ward.
The child was always a ward, wasn't he?
Exactly. That's why they could kick the door in anytime and take out anything and anyone that they want.
Is you also are a figment of that
Right.
thing too. So you
Exactly.
have no rights.
Right? Silent weapon. Because people think that they're applying for something that certifies their birth. Or they're getting some social insurance from this card that they have. Right? When, you know, it's a silent weapon. It's a weapon that they're using in order to get people to give up their energy for nothing. And then have people think that paper is the real energy. And they're stacking that up, but they have grays at 20 years old.
Yeah.
But they have paper stacked up, right? And then they die, and what name is on them? Johnson, Franklin, Davis, whatever. It's going right back to the European. That's how they're able to fund what they do to us. Right, and it comes back to the thing yesterday, right? The psych ward. The white man isn't coming into our homes and putting guns to our heads, forcing us to break up our families or kill each other. The aim in a psychological attack is to get the people under attack to work against themselves. It appears as though it is black people who are waging war on black people. So it's not the Illuminati that's doing it. It's not the New World Order people. It's not the Masons. It's not the white man. It's not the cracker.
It's us.
Those
It's
people aren't
the blacks.
the problem,
Yeah.
right? And they're not the problem because they're citizens that belong to some nation. The French nation, Dutch nation, German nation, right? British nation. Like they belong to something, right? French nation. They're citizens. They have a right to protest against things that are unconstitutional. That's why there's King Alfred plan. The executive order to counteract the minority, blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites in their rise from up under the depression and powers that be. To counteract their rise out of the depression.
So it's telling you right there what it is. That's it.
Right? Why would they create this document and then hide it from the public?
Of course.
You know?
They don't
Because
have to hide it from the public.
Yeah, I mean,
Because when you go to them on the street and you say, here, this is what's going on, they back away.
Yeah,
They
public
want no
don't want
part
it.
of it.
yeah.
They're afraid because they look at you and they figure something's wrong with you because you're wearing a fez.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So they don't need to hide nothing from us.
Mhm.
Yeah. Right.
They already got us, you know, got our number.
So this is why, you know, like, it's important that we understand that if you're claiming, not like, if you're claiming nationality, our nationality, name has a lot to do with it. Right? The fact that you're saying, I am a national of, ... whatever you're sliding in there after of, has to have a name that's attached to that name. Right? There has to be a connection, there has to be joinder between the name
What you're talking about
and
if
the
it comes
geographical land
from the
mass.
last name or something, harkening back to wherever it is.
All right.
Yeah, the Moorish name.
Right? So we're gonna go to what is in a name, and this is Grand Governor Heru Ranisi L. So we'll pass that around, and then you can email amirheru9@yahoo.com if you want to get any of his books, and usually they're about $15, 15 notes. AMIRHERU, the number 9@yahoo.com. And this is what is in a name, page 9. Name, as mentioned earlier, are also titles. According to Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856, the word title is defined as the means whereby the owner of lands has just possession of his property. A good title is that which entitles a man by right to a property or estate and to the lawful possession of the same. Title to real estate is acquired by two methods, namely by descent and by purchase. Title is also acquired and lost by transfer by the act of a party, by gift, or by contract or sale. Relative to persons, the word title is defined in the previous mentioned reference as titles are distinctions by which a person is known. The sovereign grand imperial titles of nobility of El, Bey, and Ali are the pedigree titles of nobility linking Moorish Al-Moroccan nationals to the soil of the Americas, North, Central, South, and adjoining islands. These titles are passed from a generation to generation to remind the European occupational forces of the original inhabitants of the landowners of Amexem, whose trade name is styled as United States of America, held in perpetual union. Titles of nobility are outlawed or held in perpetual union. Articles of Confederation, Preamble, Article 1. Titles of nobility are outlawed by the U.S. Federal Constitution in Article 1, Section 9, which states no title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office or of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatsoever from any king, prince, or foreign state. This is because titles of nobility may only be granted by the aboriginal indigenous inhabitants of a nation-state. Europeans, masquerading as Americans, do not have lawful authority to issue a title of nobility. The Beys, Els, and Alis, Moorish American nationals, or Moorish Al-Moroccan nationals, or Moroccan American nationals, have a pedigree descent of nobility of over 50,000 years in this hemisphere. Europeans have no pedigree descent of nobility in this hemisphere, and in Europe anything preceding 1100 AD becomes scarce. The Moorish nobility were wealthy landowners backed by nature's law, Allah, all law, the Moorish ground forces, and the Moorish navy. As the descendants of these nobles, we today are also nobles. royal imperial offspring, which is why we possess our titles of nobility of Bey, El, and Ali. That may make that and Ali that many mistake as names. William Shakespeare, Sir Francis Bacon, once made the statement, "What is in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." What does this statement allude to? It alludes to the spiritual fact that a thought of Allah manifest in flesh, man, angel, or prophet, is still the manifest form of the divine despite name. However, names are tones, tones are vibration, and vibrations arrange energy into shape and form. Once that form is achieved, then the form vibrates, attracting other forms of energy to it. This is why you must be careful what you call yourself from a divine point of view. Legally, name infers pedigree, pedigree infers heritage and legal status. Since the construct referred to as the United States of America is a commercial agreement between the Moors and the British subjects who defected and naturalized into the Moorish imperial dominion, the North Gate and Northwest of Mexam, it is plain to see that all those who are not either Mexican or Moorish American, which in truth refer to the same people, are foreigners, and the United States of America or American refers to no one pedigree of people. Is that one? Thus, it is the cognomen or surname that tells one's origin. If one's name does not end in Bey, El, or Ali, that individual is a naturalized citizen, otherwise known as a foreigner, alien, or artificial person. If one fits the facial description or phenotype of a Moor, heavy to light melanin, wavy to woolly hair, yet bears the name of a European with respect to their prospective nations, then said individual is committing fraud. Fraud is deception made for personal gain. Fraud is a crime whereby the perpetrator deceives another in order to acquire property or services from them. Right? So, Timothy Drew was born, right? Then there's Noble Drew Ali, right? Well, after Timothy Drew, there was Professor Drew the Addict, right? Then there was Noble Drew Ali, then there was Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and then there's Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, right? 5 names, 5 principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. 5 points on the star. 5 civilized tribes. 5 on the left. Right? So there's a pattern of 5 to validate 5 being respective to the Moors. Right? Him nationalizing is having a name that vibrates on a frequency based on his nationality. So Noble Drew Ali doesn't vibrate on Moorish nationality, because Drew is not like one of our names, right? Maybe the translation of what Drew came from, but not Drew, D-R-E-W, right? Like Nancy Drew is a European, so that's a conflict of interest right there, right? Diverse citizenship, right? Now, he said that he went to Mecca, and then they gave him a high name, right? And he can't tell anybody the name, we'll let you know later. This is what he said back then. The name that came out is Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, is the name, right? So that's his free name. That's his name that, you know, is his. That's a name that is bonded to the Moorish nation.
Right.
And nobody can touch that name. Right? That's like, just like if you ask entertainer, athlete, you know, give me your autograph, they're not giving you the check signing signature. But they're giving you the fraud. Because why would they be putting their signature that they put on checks on stuff that people could lift it off and use it on other stuff? Right? Because your signature has a lot to do with who you are. Right? So it's still Psych 4. Black people who have no interest in learning about the laws of life, the development of the race, and how our minds and bodies work are victims of this psych war. Those who believe that by nature the black African is inferior to any other race are casualties. Black people who identify more with Europeans than Africans are victims. Black people who perpetrate crimes on other black people are slaves to their enemies, and therefore are self-destructive, and that makes them victims of this psych war. Black people who have given up hope in their own race and family are victims. A victim of the psych war, therefore, has been mentally manipulated into working against the natural laws of survival for self and group. Just a little thought on the subject will let you know that working together increases our chances of survival and happiness. We have failed to properly control ourselves culturally, economically, and educationally. We suffer more because something is preventing us from doing that which comes naturally to people in general and which will improve all black people's lives. We have failed to work together as other ethnic and racial groups have. What is the source of such a mentality? In this psych war, two of the most effective bullets used against black Africans born in America are: one, that we are descendants of a people who used to be slaves to white people, and two, that our ancestors lived like stupid animals in the jungles of Africa before the white man came. These negative beliefs have strong influence on our understanding of ourselves and our existence. How can a people who are not worthy produce offspring who are worthy? How can devils produce saints? If we believe that our ancestors were slaves and savages, we will act accordingly. In addition, we would be reacting to something that is not true. This is a double negative. And it's double negative that we put on ourselves. It's not a double negative because of what some other people are doing. Because those people are doing what they're gonna do. Those people are doing what they've been doing.
They're doing what comes natural.
Right.
Yeah, all because we enable it.
Yeah. Right. Because we don't want to recognize that there's something different about us than other people on the planet. There must be something wrong why our people can't get to that level of having everything that your community needs at your disposal only. Like, we shop at everybody's stuff. We should go to the Italian guy for some stuff, we go to the Chinese for some stuff, we go to the Filipino for some stuff, we go to the German for some stuff, we go to the Jew for some stuff, we go everybody. And we don't go to ourselves for anything. That's mind control. That's brainwashing.
I had a
That's
sense that.
sorcery.
Yeah,
I
mental
had a
health.
sense that maybe because we're more spiritual, we've been more easily sort of influenced by these sort of spiritual attacks. Of the
Right.
thought that I
The-
had.
the si- the- the
The
si- the
silence
silence
attacks,
attack.
right? For the most people, they don't even have that ability to
Right.
be influenced by that.
Right. Right.
That's why we've been hit so hard.
Right.
And then to add on to that, the fact that we are taking other influences, their gods and their so-called religion,
Yep.
that has left us completely void. It's
Yeah.
now put us in their level.
Right.
And that's
Which
why
makes
we-
it easier now for them to,
But it's-
because
but it's
they're
because-
also artificial people.
That's right. But they're practiced at that, and they know about that. We don't live like that, so
Right.
we're in a sense living on a lower level.
Right. But everything that they know of a lower level
Mhm.
is from our lower level.
That's right.
So we know. We just don't.
Then we're not meant to live like that.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's not our birthright.
That's right. And
That's
that's
not
why,
our
that's
birthright.
why we're living the way we're living.
Right. So with King Alfred plan and the psych war, we can see that the target is the minority.
Yeah.
Like that's what they're going after. They're not going after all citizens.
Yeah.
They're specifically targeting this minority.
You know what's interesting? Why would they be targeting us? If we're already down.
Yeah.
If we're already down and out. Why are they bothering with us?
They exploit us.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell
We're
you
the most
straight up.
dangerous.
Huh?
Because we're the
No,
most
but,
dangerous.
but that's the point though. So really, we're not down and out, are we?
No, we're not, we
Exactly.
just think that we're.
They
I
know
wonder
that
if it's a-
anytime
if it's
we
an-
actually wake up and become who we're supposed to be
That's right.
and know ourselves,
Mm.
then they're in trouble.
Yeah, it's a
But
sleeping
they're so
giant.
confident and arrogant that they can even put in there that we're too stupid to read this. We don't understand it anyway, and we're just, what do they call us? Food or something like that?
Yeah.
In the thing, yeah.
Hmm.
So, you know, they
Or a
don't
stake on the.
stake on the table.
They
You
could-
know,
like-
ignorance is a food
Like,
source.
like cannon fodder.
That's
Yeah.
right.
There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. Just like the sister said, they know that we're dangerous. They know that, the wick is like burnt down and it's about to kick off,
Yeah.
right? They know that.
Well, I also sense that's because they need a large workforce, right? So the very nature of them needing a lot of people to do all this work is
Yeah.
what, when those people finally wake up, they got a real problem.
Right.
Because you got one man running 1,000.
Yeah,
And once those 1,000 wake up, that one man's done.
exactly.
I'm not too sure if it's a large workforce that they need, because if you remember, Prince Philip in England said that he wants to reduce the world population to 500,000
Yeah.
to 1 million.
Yeah.
So I think it's a numbers game. I think it's because the Caucasian population is not growing as fast as the minority population is growing. It's a matter of control.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're losing control over the world.
Yeah.
As you can see, what's happening now with Asia, for example, is rising, and that's what's all this thing about Syria and Iran,
Yeah.
and it's all about, is to stop the Asian population from
Yeah,
from rising,
stop
while
the
the
Asian
Western
population,
economy
right.
is
It's plummeted.
is plummeting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It was inevitable. They could never stop it.
Right. And
I
then
don't
again,
care
too,
what they try.
remember
There was
that,
something
that,
interesting actually. There was I never saw the preview for it, but I went and saw this movie, Hunger Games.
Hunger Games,
And when I
yeah.
look at that movie, all I see in it, from a different perspective, I see martial law when I look at that movie,
Real.
right? And the thing that was interesting about that movie is, if you look at all the Nubians that were in it, it's like it wasn't in their nature. They weren't just coming to kill people. They were just trying to survive.
Mhm.
Like,
Real.
I'm here in a circumstance I don't want to be in.
Yeah.
I just want to survive. I'm not here to kill anybody. And then when they had to,
Yeah, if need
they
be.
would fight.
Yeah.
If need be.
If need be, they will. But one thing I found really interesting is when that young black girl was killed, and the girl buried her and gave her a proper burial. When she made a sign back home to the other, to her district,
Yeah,
I don't know if it was their father or whatever, but when they got fed up, they uprose, right?
yeah,
And I think that movie is just showing you that they already know what our character is like.
Right.
When we're pushed beyond the limit,
yeah,
we come together and we uprise, and they just
Right.
threw over everything.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they already know what our reaction
What our
will
reaction
be.
is gonna be.
And they're even showing you in the movies what our reaction would
Right.
be,
Right,
right? And I
Yeah.
think they're scared of that.
yeah. Most
But at
definitely.
the same time, it's something they want to happen because they want a reason to put martial law in place.
Yeah, but, and that's the thing, like, with, because remember that they're specifically targeting the minority.
Mm.
They don't care about anybody else right now. The first people that they have to get rid of it is
Yeah.
the minority.
And you're talking minority in a lawful
Right,
sense
right.
as well.
Yeah, minority in the sense of blacks, Latinos, Indians, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites, but also people who are incompetent.
Well, because we're not the minority. When you put all
Yeah,
the people
like if you
together,
put all the
we're
people
way
together,
out the
you're
majority.
majority.
So they're
Majority.
really talking
Right.
lawfully
Right.
what they consider the minority.
Right,
And
what
that's
they,
it.
what they're saying minority from a law perspective,
Exactly.
not from a numbers perspective.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I do think it's a numbers game, because if you take a lot of the policies focus on the black population, for
Right.
example, abortion, for example,
Yeah,
is basically to reduce the population of the
Genocide.
minorities.
right,
Yeah, but you know
Attrition.
what, but I almost disagree with that, because you look at the religious edicts, and they're telling you, the Roman Catholics are telling you to have sex without condoms.
Yeah.
Right, so they're telling you to continue to propagate, because they
Yeah.
want numbers.
but who are they talking to though?
We're talking to other people, but their plan is to have everyone one of them, right? I mean, that's ultimately
Well,
what it
that's
is.
fine, because if they get us under their yoke, that's fine too, as
Yeah.
far as they're concerned.
Well, it
We're
is,
still
but-
not being ourselves
Yeah.
if we decide to go and follow the Pope.
But I think what the
You know.
issue is, I think we're changing eras. It's no longer sort of an industrial era, it's now technological era.
Exactly.
So you don't need the numbers
You
anymore.
don't, yeah, right, not only don't you need the
That's
numbers,
right.
but
But they
you don't
needed the numbers before, up until
Yeah,
maybe 20, 30 years ago, right?
right, but not only needing the numbers, but they don't need niggers anymore, because they become a
A liability.
broken down piece of machinery
Mhm.
that you have to scrap,
Yes.
A liability.
because it's
Looking at them as being a
technological,
piece
like
of-
you're saying.
We're looking at them being a piece of machinery that's not working anymore.
It's not working anymore. What are you gonna do? You have the Black and Decker, zzz, 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 and then you have the hand crank.
Yeah.
Like, they're good for the Black and Decker,
And on
Right.
top of it, they don't need anybody they can't control.
right?
It's all
Exactly.
about control.
That's
You
right.
know,
They don't want.
so they're about strict
They're scared of a free
extermination.
thinking mind.
So we're gonna outline. This is for those that because again, this targets a specific people, right? So we're not worried. Like those that read the code. For example, he will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage, and knows that political asylum will not be available to him in other countries. So this is a military document.
Because they know we don't belong anywhere else.
Right.
Because this, we're home.
So this document that's targeting minorities is saying that the minorities are bound to the continent by heritage.
This is our land.
So in essence, they have to get rid of us,
Right?
because if we come into our own person, they're gone.
And that's why we say the name of the last two classes is nationalize or die. Because they don't have any,
Claim.
they don't have any good feelings toward the minority. Like, they are about exterminating the minority. Period. Like, just exterminate them, because, it's a lemon. Why are we gonna keep it around for? Why are we gonna try to sell it? Nobody's not gonna buy these niggers. We could ask people around. People would be like, no, we need, we're into child slavery. We don't do those ones anymore. Maybe some Asian girls will buy it. But we're not buying those guys anymore. We're done with those guys. All those guys do is burn stuff down, and we don't want those ones. Send those ones somewhere else. Do something with them.
But you can't send them. 'cause
You can't send them.
They're
You can't
bound
deport
to this
them,
continent.
because they're bound to the continent by heritage. So you build a jail, and you just fill up the jail. And then you fill up the jail.
That still makes them money.
Hmm?
But that's-
Exactly, right? And it's not really making them money, it's just
Locking away
them
the
not
profit.
having to use their energy. They just use our energy, you know, in mass numbers. Right? Because that's what it comes down to.
Well, also, you think about it, for every one of those people that's locked in jail, there's a broken family,
Yeah, right, exactly.
right?
So
Which
they're
is
killing a
which is
whole
part
bunch
of
of
the
birds
So
with
it
one
becomes a whole
stone.
exponential
Yeah,
thing.
right. Which is what King Alpha plans
Lock them
for.
up and like you said,
It's
control.
also the energy.
Silent
Locking them
weapons.
up.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
Huh.
Then they make money in each
To-
prison.
To like even when you look at it like you know the even the money, right? The quarters is energy for the moon, right? And then the 4 quarters make the dollar, and then the dollar is the one, and then that's the sun, right? Like so, it's still energy that they're jacking,
Yeah.
even with the money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? So they can say, yeah, it's currency. If it's governed off universal principles,
Well, that's the only way it becomes anything.
that's the only way it becomes anything
That's right,
in this reality,
that's right.
right? But it depends on what brought it down.
Yeah,
If a lower level being brought down, then it's only gonna be looked at on
that level.
that level, right? Which is a jurisdiction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if we're superior, if we're multidimensional, you don't have to worry about the third dimensional,
But if they've got us trapped in that bottom dimension,
right?
and they're running the show,
But are we really trapped?
no, we're, well, by our own choice.
Right? Exactly. So that means it's not a trap.
No,
Like you put your foot in the trap and stepped on the thing and it closed down your foot.
but now I gotta open that up and step out.
Yeah. You shouldn't have put your foot in there in the first place.
Well, my foot's there right now, right? I gotta do something about it, right?
Right? But that's the thing. Yeah, the foot's there.
But it's more like a landmine, never mind a trap.
No, I think it's more like a trap.
A landmine.
So this is how the critical hours now break down if there's a race war. Right? While the national population exceeds that of the minority by more than 10 times, we must realistically take into account the following. 1. An estimated 40 to 50% of the white population will not, for various reasons, engage the minority during an emergency. 2. American armed forces are spread around the world. A breakout of war abroad means fewer troops at home to handle the emergency. 3. Local law enforcement officials must contain the emergency until help arrives, though it may mean fighting a superior force. New York City, for example, has a 25,000-man police force, but there are about 1 million minority members in the city. We are confident that the minority could hold any city it took for only a few hours. The lack of weapons, facilities, logistics all put the minority at a final disadvantage. Since the Korean War, this department has shifted minority members of the armed forces to areas where combat is not likely to occur, with the aim of eliminating through combat as many combat-trained minority servicemen as possible. Today, the ratio of minority member combat deaths in Vietnam, where they are serving as advisors, is twice as high as the minority population ratio to the rest of America. Below is the timetable of King Alfred as tentatively suggested by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who recommend that the operation be made over a period of 8 hours. 1. Local police and minority